I bet you've sewn something up, like selected the most beautiful fabric, sewn it all up, worn it, only to think like this was going to be a wonderful summer light breezy top, and then you wear it and you realize that you're boiling hot and just sweating through your clothes, right? Or the opposite, you make some winter trousers and wear them only to realize that you're freezing through them. So this is very common. Learning fabrics and fabric choices does take time, but let's look at what makes a fabric hot or cool to wear so you can start better planning that new summer wardrobe, that new winter wardrobe, and pick fabrics that will be the best for your designs. Sewing friends, welcome back for another video today. I'm really excited about this one. Fabrics is something that I nerd out about. If you've been around here, you know that's what we do. If you are here for the first time, welcome. My name's Evelyn Wood and I'm the creator of Vintage Sewing School. And here we talk all about garment sewing so you can get really good at sewing those garments that you just are dying to make. And one of them is fabric choice, right? So what makes a fabric cool or hot to wear? So there's the obvious thickness thing, but there are a lot of other factors that go into it. And there's nothing worse than making, as I said in the intro, a nice summer blouse only to realize that it is way too hot, or, winter trousers and you realize you're freezing through them. It's about selecting the right fabric. And as we learn sewing, learning fabrics is a whole category of learning activities that we need to do. And let's talk specifically when it comes to warm and coolness, like how do we choose those appropriately before them, because there's so many choices. Because it might just be ready for the upcoming summer or upcoming winter wardrobe. For me, in Australia, it's upcoming winter wardrobe, but it's probably summer wardrobe for you. Okay, first point, let's look at all the different factors. And the first one is the fibre that the actual fabric is made from. So let me just recap what the fibre is. So your fabric is things like denim, satin, jersey, all these types of names are fabric names. There's obviously many more, having mind blanks here. What you see, these little pieces of yarns that the fabric is made up of, these are yarns. What these yarns are made from is the fibre. These are things like polyester, wool, silk, cotton. You know what I mean, right? These are the actual fibres, the raw material that it is made from. So this carries 2 points here when we talk about the fibre and if it's cool or hot. The first one is how it retains heat. And so there are different fibres, and I know you probably know this one, but wool is an exceptionally good fabric for retaining heat. So fibre for retaining heat, sorry. And that when it when it gets warm against the body, it actually stays warm and it holds it there. Whereas things like cotton, for example, it doesn't really. Once it's warm, you move it away, it's going to cool off. It doesn't retain that heat. So it's mostly a factor in warmer clothes. Wool is a really great choice. Rayon's probably close up there, and the others are much of a muchness. It mostly comes into how those fibres are constructed into fabric that makes more of a difference when we talk about warmth. But the other one when we talk about fibre is the moisture wicking. So this means how much moisture it absorbs from your body, be it sweat, whether you know it or not. You still do sweat even if you're not sweating, but the moisture allows it to pass through the fibre, and actually it draws it up and soaks it into the fibres itself and lets it cool out and obviously evaporate on the other side. This is super important when you're looking for nice, cool garments. Like where I live in the tropics, this is absolute key in my wardrobe. And when it comes to fibres, what you want to look for here is natural fibres. So this is your cottons, your linens, your silks, even wool are all really great at moisture wicking. And even rayon and viscose is quite good as well. It'd be nice and cool in that it allows that moisture to flow out. Anything of our synthetic fibres like polyester, acetate, nylon, all of these synthetic fibres do not moisture wick. They are, think of them basically like a plastic. So when it's against your body, it just creates a buffer, and the moisture in your sweat, all that moisture in here just stays in here. And that's when you get really clammy, that real clamminess feeling. So it's probably not as important when you're in a cold temperature, for example, and you're barely sweating at all. But if you were to do physical activity in even these warm, thick clothes in the snow, if you're still sweating, you'll still find it's quite clammy because it's not breathing that moisture out and it's just sticking around your body. So for coolness, we want always to go for natural fibres, and they're all pretty good. Like, they're all good. So any natural fibres, and including rayon and viscose, will be good choices there for moisture wicking. The next category we go to is to how tight or loose weave that the fabric is. So what we're talking about here is all these little individual threads that make up the fabric here, how tightly these are woven, and knitted as well, but mostly with woven, that they are compressed together. So have a think about, bed sheets often claim the 1,000 count bed sheets, right? That means that there are 1,000 little threads, yarns, all packed into, I think they do a meter or a centimeter. I'm not sure what their measurements are, but there's 1,000 of them packed in to that maybe 10 centimeter block or whatever it is that they measure it by. And it's a very tight weave. Whereas, lower quality bed sheets, for example, might only have 250 threads. You can see there's a big difference there, but that is more the weight of dress fabrics, for example. And so how tightly these are woven also impacts how warm and cool it is, because the looser the weave, so let's just pretend we've got something like here, right? So the looser the weave, the more little air holes that there are in between the fibers, and that it allows for all that moisture and the heat to be able to dissipate through, because it's literally got more sort of little gaps in between those yarns. The tighter the weave, of course, means that there's less, and so it creates a more solid barrier and keeps in that warmth and the moisture as well, but it keeps that in there. So how tightly woven it is. Now you can tell yourself by looking at fabrics. All you really need to do is get a little bit of the fabric and how easily it frays. As a general rule, if it just, those fabrics that disintegrate as you're sewing with them, etc., and you just do this and they just seem to fall apart, they're a loose weave fabric, so there's not much holding them together. Whereas if you get that 1,000 count bed sheet, or often men's shirts, business shirts, they're quite a tight weave as well, you'll find that you'll cut them out and you'll use them and they just don't even fray much, right? That's because they're really tightly woven and it's all really jam-packed in there, so it's harder for those threads to come apart. So that's how you can tell yourself. So that is the tight and loose weave when it comes to warm and heat. Let's talk about thickness and fluffiness when we get to the fabric. Now, it's a no-brainer, of course, that the thicker the fabric, the warmer it's going to be. We all know that one. And that goes in line with, even if it's looser weave, even if it's the different fibers, the thicker it is, obviously provides a bigger buffer, like thicker padding all over. And it's also about the fluffiness. So think fabrics like fleece, like wool coatings, flannel, these fluffy kind of fabrics, right? They work the same way that insulation does in our houses, in that the thicker and fluffier something is, it allows more air pockets inside the fabric itself or next to your body to create and hold all of that heat in. So it keeps it nice and warm, because it heats it. Your body is a natural heat agent, right? So it's always going to be warm against your body. And if you've got something fluffier the fabric, it will have all those little air pockets that will retain that warm air in there more for you. So of course, the fluffier, in the opposite, the smoother and shinier, the smoother surface it is, the more contact there is, and it doesn't have as many air pockets for that heat to retain in as well. So that is a key when you're looking for warmer garments, is those sort of fluffier type ones that, even quilting is where this comes into it. Think many layers all stitched together. In between all of those little layers, there's little air pockets, right? There's gaps in there that allow for that warmth to stay in there. And that's how it stays really, really toasty warm. Okay, so let's recap. If you are looking for nice, warm fabrics, what should we look for? Look for things like wool, or have a component of wool in them. Look for nice, tighter weave fabrics, are often going to be a little bit warmer too. But more than that, obviously look for thicker versions of whatever you've got. Look for fluffiness as well. The more textured and fluffy and thicker, and those fibers to begin with will keep that heat in for you and make it nice and warm. Then, if you are looking for something breezy, tropical for that high summer heat, what you want to look for is natural fibres to begin with to get that moisture wicking. Look for looser weave that have a little bit of more gaps in them to let that moisture and heat out. Look for obviously lighter fabrics as well, and these will all help you keep nice and cool and keep that moisture away from your body. That's the key with keeping cool, as it is with keeping warm. You want to keep that warm air right in that beside your body. Going for the opposites. I hope that gives you a really good idea of what to look for when you're touching and feeling and really analyzing what the fabrics are to what will make a great summer top or a great winter trouser, because you know, when you have a bit of sewing success, it's always nicer when it actually works out really, really well and it works in your wardrobe, right? Now, I live in the tropics. Clamminess is my enemy here. I would love to know, what is your enemy when it comes to fabrics? Are you always looking for warm things, clamminess like me? I'd love to hear it down below. And any extra tips you have for us too on either keeping cool or keeping warm. We are sewing community here, so there's other great tips from all of our community down in the comments down below, so don't forget to read those. And until next time, my sewing friends, happy sewing. Bye.